Hello, Carl.
Hello, Rune.
Are you...
Bear?
Yeah. That sounds good. You're drinking?
Yeah. It's too dark to do anything but playing with the fire and drinking beer.
Thank you.
This is Norwegian Christmas beer.
So it's a Christmas celebration.
It's always been a tradition in Norway to brew a lot of beer for Christmas.
How did that come about?
Well, that's the story. It's about the third king of Norway, Hakon the Good. And to tell his story, I kind of have to touch on his predecessors. The first king of all of Norway is Harald, son of Halvdan, or better known to history as Harald the Fine-Haired, because he turned out to have pretty good hair when he finally got a haircut. But he's a very ambitious guy. What you have to do if you want to become king of a new kingdom, a kingdom that isn't used to being united, so to speak, is that you have to get on good terms with the powerful locals. So he marries into basically every family in the world, well, in Norway, and some Danish. And he has somewhere between 11 and 20 sons. So he is the first king of Norway. The second king of Norway is his favorite son, Erik, later known as Bloodaxe. When Harald the Fine-Haired is growing old, he has all of these sons, and he wants all of them to be kings, but he wants Erik to be overking. Erik, who has absolutely no idea what he is doing, and a lot of them don't really accept him as overking. So the infighting starts almost immediately when Harald the Fine-Haired dies. So he ends up killing a lot of them. And probably from his perspective, one of the least important sons that Harald the Fine-Haired had, he had with Tora Mosterstong. And she lives in Moster, which is somewhere right south of Haugesund, so pretty far to the south of Norway. And she gets pregnant, and when the pregnancy gets along, she tries to get to the king because she wants the king to be there for the birth. She gets a ride on the ship of the second Earl of Lade under Harald the Fine-Haired. She is on his ship, but then she goes into labor, and having a baby on a moving Viking ship is a little bit too extreme even for a Viking woman. So they go on land somewhere close to where Bergen is today. But something happens when he is about 10. Harald the Fine-Haired has now been king of Norway for a period, so he's starting to get comfortable by being a major force in Europe. So he's starting to kind of dabble in European diplomacy. And at the same time, you have King Athelstan of England, who is in the same position. He is the first king of England. He and Harald kind of enters into this, to use a modern term, pissing contest. So they're trying to one-up each other all the time. Athelstan gives Harald the Fine-Haired a very nice sword. So the king is straight up grateful for getting it and thanks him profusely for this gift. But as soon as he basically has it in his hand, Athelstan goes, you know what it means when you take a weapon from a king, right? What he is hinting at is that I am now arming you, so that you can fight on my behalf. A weapon is a typical gift to give to a subordinate. Well, obviously this is an insult, but Harald is a very composed person. He doesn't fly off the handle for a little insult. He goes home and plans, because you have to get even, right? And what he does to get even is, even by Viking standards, might be a little bit extreme. So he sends one of his friends to England, bringing along the little kid, Hakon, his son. And when the friend gets to the English court, he basically just walks up to the king and plumps the kid down on his lap. And the king goes, "What? What are we doing now? Are we throwing children at each other?" And he says, that is the son of the Norwegian king, Harald the Fine-Haired, and he has sat on your lap. What he is hinting at, or basically telling him, is that you are now the foster parent of this kid. So having somebody raise your kids indicates that this person is of lower status than you. Athelstan isn't really a dumb person, So as soon as he gets to think about it a little bit, he sees that he is actually in quite a good position with this. Because having the opportunity to raise his kid and raise him to be a Christian, you have a potential to turn Norway into a Christian country and then maybe have the Norwegian riders think twice before they ride monasteries and churches and so on. He lives there with the king, and the king actually seems to get quite a good relationship to the kid. He seems to genuinely like him and treat him like a son. And in the meantime, his brother, Eric the Blood Axe, notice that he is not Eric the Diplomat or Eric the Nice. Is trying to run Norway, but he really doesn't have the right education for this job. Also, he seems to really want to just be a rider and a warrior, and running a country is a lot more complicated than that. So he is, by all accounts, a horrible king, to the point where the local nobles basically goes for, do we have any other alternatives? We have a brother-murdering psychopath as king, and things are not going well. So the Earls of Lade decides to contact, well, most likely this is the way it goes. It might have been the other way around, that the English king is sending messages to them asking, would you like another king? But most likely they are asking him, pretty please, with sugar on top, can we have Hakon back? Because the murdering psychopath is just not working out. We need somebody better. So the English king has probably, Athelstein, has probably been dreaming of this all along. So he equips him with 3 ships of men, and he also gives him a sword. He goes over and he goes directly to Trondheim, where the Earls of Lade sit. And they immediately basically go, yeah, that's a better alternative. We like him, we want him to become king of Norway. And he makes promises to the farmers. And then by small steps, the rest of Norway changed their allegiance from Eric Blood Axe to Hakon the Good. And Eric Blood Axe here does something really unexpected. He goes, yeah, no, fine. I'll just go and do something else. And he does. So he abdicates voluntarily. And then he goes and plunders the Orkneys, Ireland, Shetland, and for a while England, until Athelstein basically goes, hey, you want to be king of York? You can have Northumbria. And he goes, yeah, fine. In the meantime, Hakon has a little bit of a problem. Because Hakon is a Christian. But some of the locals are not happy with this arrangement. They really don't like the idea of following a man who won't toast the gods and take part in the rituals. So they come up with a fairly unique solution of just kidnapping their king and forcing him to take part in Midwinter Blot. We know that one important element of the Midwinter Blot is the eating of horse meat. So they kidnap him and take him to a farm where they're doing this Midwinter Blot. And now they're obviously stepping on the toes of Sigurd Håkonsson, because he basically said that, oh, this is fine. He can do his thing and we do our thing. It's no problem. So he is annoyed and he has to run back and forth between the king and the farmers who have kidnapped him to basically try to negotiate this. He takes part in the ritual. You don't have to toast the gods, but at least have him eat some of the horse meat. So Sigurd goes back to Håkon and says, okay, since you are already here, they say it's okay, you don't have to toast the gods, but you do have to eat some of the horse meat. And he goes, no, I'm not eating any of the horse meat. Okay, I'll go and renegotiate. So he goes back to the farmers and say, okay, he is here. He will sit here, he will take part in the ritual, but he is not eating the horse meat. And I go, okay, but when we send the bowler on with the horse meat, if he at least could put his lips to the lid of the bowl. And he goes, okay, I'll see what I can do. He goes back to the king, and the king says, yeah, okay, fine, let's just get it over with. And when they send around the horse meat, when it comes to him, he takes out his handkerchief and puts it over the lid, and then he puts his lips on top of the handkerchief. So it's obvious to everybody that not an iota of horse meat has gotten anywhere near his mouth. And so far, so bad, but then he does this. The sign of the cross. The blot is fredlyst, which means it's sacred ground. You cannot kill anybody here. Any animosity is left at the door. This is for the gods. But this is so blasphemous that I basically start going, we are tempted to break our own rule here. So Sigurd goes between and goes, okay, calm down, calm down. That was not the cross. That was not the cross. That was the hammer of Thor. He is blessing the meat in the name of Thor. Mm-hmm. Then he looks back at the king, and the king basically goes, okay, fine. So his Christianity is one of the kind of, it's kind of wishy-washy, because in some of the sagas, they think that he was a good Christian all of his life, and he was the first Christian king of Norway, so leave him alone. Mm-hmm. In other sagas, they say, well, he was a Christian, but then he kind of dropped it when he came to Norway and he turned pagan. Mm. But he likes standardizing things, and all over Norway, people are celebrating the midwinter blood at different times. So he basically says that, okay, everybody, whether you are celebrating Christmas or the Yule, the midwinter blood, you are doing it on the 24th of December. Mm. And everywhere, every place has to have enough beer. For every adult man in your household, you have to have 15 liters of beer. Mm-hmm. That's almost 4 gallons. Mm. And I also expect people to drink all this beer in the 3 days that the festival lasts. Mm. So whether you're celebrating the birth of Christ or that Odin hasn't killed you this year, 15 liters of beer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jesus. I really think that would be a challenge to me even in my prime. And now I'm way too old for it.
Yeah.
But maybe sometime off season I can give it an honest attempt.
Hello! Welcome to the smithy. This is where we make all the metal items for the village. In order to make enough iron to make an axe, for example, like this one, it would take approximately a month, or even more sometimes. And the reason for that is you would have to go into the mountain and you have to look for iron ore. And iron ore is normally in bogs. So you would go into the mountains, look for oil film on the water, and when you find oil film, you will cut into the bog and open it up and see if there is any ore in there. So I just dug out the red patches, and when you burn this stuff, you get these very, very, very fine powder, but it's all iron ore. So it contains a lot of different minerals that help with the process to make the iron runny and the ore runny inside the bloomery furnace. What is a bloomery furnace, you might ask? Well, I can tell you that. A bloomery furnace is normally when we make a bloomery furnace today, we make it so that we use clay and horse manure and make it round, approximately 2 feet, 1 to 2 feet in diameter, and approximately 3 to 4 feet high. That's the normal size of a bloomery furnace. To go out in the mountain and look for iron ore, it's a expedition in itself, and it takes a lot of resources. So, and this, when it's wet, this type of material, it will weigh a lot. And even if you only have, if you have dug out the iron ore from it as well, just if you have lumps of iron ore, it's going to be very heavy because you need a lot of it. So you need so much iron ore that you probably wouldn't be able to carry everything down to your village or to your settlement with ease for one smelting. So normally they would fire up the bloomery furnace and make the bloomery furnace on site. But when you start with doing this process, you normally want to add as much as possible. So you want a more industrious way of doing it, which is one of the definitions. The definition of the Iron Age is actually when a culture has the ability to mass produce carbon steel. Normally, how to make a knife like this, you would have iron on each side of it. So on this side and that side, there will be iron, and in the middle, you will have steel. So to make this, you need to master the art of forge welding. And forge welding means that you increase the temperature enough, and you have 3 layers, one layer of steel and 2 layers of iron, and you forge weld it together. You can also forge weld pure steel and the pure iron, but that's the way they do this. So this is a piece of wrought iron, and as you can see, it has these layers upon layers upon layers of iron. And the reason why it has these layers is that when you have made this clay oven, you put charcoal in the bottom, iron ore, and then charcoal, iron ore, charcoal, iron ore, and then all the way to the top. Then you put these bellows on. So this is a bellows. And the way you use this is that you put it here and push it like this. So these come in all different sizes. And some of them that we have found from the medieval period are very large. These ones are quite small, but these would be sufficient for making iron from scratch. So you push these bellows for about 5 hours on a normal size bloomery furnace. And then at the end of it, during this process, you put more charcoal, more iron ore, more charcoal, more iron ore. And you just continuously add that because it does fall together and it melts and it solidifies in the bottom. And the end result of this is this. This is a bloom, as we call it. These can look a little bit different depending on the process. This one's a very nice one. It's a very heavy one. So this has a lot of iron in it. So it's very solid. When this comes out of the oven, it's white hot. It's very hot. And that's when you start forging it. So you fold it and fold it and fold it like a bread dough. And then you fold it and fold it. Or like that pastry thingy. And that's when you end up with this layered structure. It's forge welded into that. Like this one. So this is the result. And as you can see, it has these layers here. So when you make this into this, at the end of it, at the end of the process, some of this will be turned into steel. Because during the process inside the bloomery furnace, technically iron ore is oxygen bound to iron. And in order to make it into pure iron, you need to remove the oxygen. And this is being done with an oxygen-free zone, which is the purpose of the bloomery furnace. And the oxygen-free environment is a carbon monoxide environment. And some of this carbon will attach itself to the iron, and thus making it into steel. Some of it will be higher carbon content and some of it will be lower. And it's not a homogeneous piece. So it's not one piece that is all the iron. But it's several patches within this will be steel and some of them will be iron. The best pieces of steel you will use as inlays in axes, for example. So the middle wedge will be the high carbon steel, and then you use the iron on each side. But there will also be some of the steel and iron, some of this material will be a combination of both. This is inferior steel to the first batch of steel that you get from the first that you strike and it chips off. Very interesting fun fact about that is that when the Vikings made steel and when they made iron from scratch, it seems that they chose to use this good steel, the first batch of steel, in their tools. But in mainland Europe and Britain, it seems that they used the top-notch steel for weapons. So that is the difference. And probably the reason is that many a time in the Viking culture, you will use your axe as the weapon anyway, and you will use the same axe. You can use your farm axe as a weapon. So this is what happens when you have a warrior-centric culture, where everyone is supposed to be a warrior, as opposed to where only the higher parts of society is allowed to be a warrior, like in the Anglo-Saxon culture, only the upper echelon would be allowed to be warriors. But in the Norse culture, everyone was expected to have some fighting skills.
Good evening, Chieftain Olafur. May I join you this evening?
Good evening, Ulf Grofell. Come in, come in. I was just going to read myself, but this sounds good. Feel at home.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I am very into thinking about the life of the Volva lately.
Oh, okay. The Volva, was this someone who was important in the everyday life of the Viking people?
I think she's, you know, modern people think about witches, and we've heard about witches that when Christianity came, they put them on the fire. I guess there was cold in those times.
Not enough to burn
like a few hundred years back, but so it's interesting to see that the witch of the Vikings was actually a very famous and well-respected woman. I wanted to read a few words. You know, Erik the Red. We were talking about Erik the Red. He was a guy who was supposed to have killed somebody in Norway, and he was thrown out of the country, and he left for Iceland, where he actually killed someone, his neighbor. So we agree he was not a very nice man. Anyway, there was written a story about this guy, Erik the Red, and what I want to read is just a short bit of a story, a description of this lady called the Volva. In the district, there lived a woman called Torbjörg. Torbjörg was a seeress who was called the Little Prophetess. She was one of 10 sisters, all of whom had the gift of prophecy, and was the only one of them still alive. It was Torbjörg's custom to spend the winter visiting one farm after the other, where she had been invited, mostly by people curious to learn of their own future, or what was in store for the coming year. Since Torkel, another Thor, was the leading farmer there, people felt it was up to him to try and find out when the hard times which has been oppressing them would let up. Torkel invited the seeress to visit, and preparations were made to entertain her well, as was the custom of the time when a woman of this type was received. A high seat was set for her, complete with cushions. Ooh, I got some cushions in there.
That's fortunate.
Yeah. When she arrived one evening, along with a man who had been sent to fetch her, she was wearing a black mantle with strap, which was adorned with precious stones right down to the hem. About her neck she wore a string of glass beads, and on her head a hood of black lambskin, lined with white catskin. She bore a staff with a knob at the top, adorned with brass set with stones on top. We're talking about that staff. So this is a similar staff.
This is what they're talking about in
Yes, and you see the brass bit
Yes,
in it.
absolutely.
About her, she had a linked charm belt with a large purse. In it, she kept the charms which she needed for her predictions. She wore calfskin boots lined with fur with long sturdy laces and large pewter knobs on the ends. On her hands, she wore gloves of catskin, white and lined with fur. When she entered, everyone was supposed to offer her respectful greetings, and she responded according to how the person appealed to her. And as meat, she was given the hearts of all the animals available there. Late the following day, she was provided with things she required to carry out her magic rites. She asked for women who knew the chants required for carrying out magic rites, which are called ward songs. But such women were not to be found. Then the people of the household were asked if there were anyone with such knowledge. Gudrid answered, I have neither magical powers nor the gift of prophecy, but in Iceland my foster mother, Haldis, taught me the chants that she called ward songs. Torbjörg answered, Then you know more than I expected. Gudrid said, These are the sort of actions in which I intend to take no part, because I'm a Christian woman. Torbjörg answered, It could be that you could help the people here by doing, and you'd be no worse a woman for that. But I expect Torkel to provide me with what I need. Torkel then urged Gudrid, who said she would do as he wished. The woman formed a warding ring around the platform raised for sorcery, with Torbjörg perched around atop of it. Gudrid spoke the chant so well and so beautifully that people there said they had never heard anyone recite in a fair voice. The seeress thanked her for her chant. She said many spirits had been attracted, who thought the chant fair to hear, though earlier they wished to turn their backs on us and refused to do our bidding. Many things are now clear to me which were earlier concealed from both me and others, and I can tell you that this spell of hardship will last no longer, and times will improve as the spring advances. The bout of illness which have long plagued you will also improve sooner than you expect, and you, Gudrid, I shall reward on the spot for the help we have received. After that, people approached the wise woman to learn what each of them were most curious to know. She made them good answers, and little that she predicted did not occur. Following this, an escort arrived from another farm, and the seeress departed. With the arrival of spring, the weather soon improved, as Torbjörg had predicted. So, that was the story about the Volva.
Fascinating, and also fascinating that she allowed for a Christian woman to sing the ward chants.
Yeah.
Because we have always taught that the Vikings despised peoples of other faiths.
Yeah. I think, this is my personal belief, that Vikings or pagans and Christians in that time actually respected each other more than we think. I know someone might have hated each other, but there is no reason why they didn't have fun with each other.
Well,
I'd say my God is better than your God.
I mean, from the things that I have read and believe myself, I think that there was, to some degree, more animosity from the Christian side than there was the Viking side.
Yeah.
Because with the Vikings and their beliefs, you find artifacts of many different religions, whereas with the Christians at that time, you only find the artifacts connected to them.
I usually have a Buddha standing here.
Yeah.
He's somewhere else now. Yes. But,
what a fascinating woman the Volva was.
yes.